God. That's a little bit better one there. Oh yeah, a lot better one. Come on, come here, fish. Woo! Oh man, she come off in the boat. Golly. Not sure if you guys saw that. I noticed that the last 2 or 3 bites that I've gotten were all right on the bank. And that's something that you're gonna see a lot during the fall, is fish right on the bank. I'm gonna let that go. Solid, about 3-pounder. Always gonna jump. Oop, there he goes. That bait literally hit the water and that fish come up and smacked it. In the fall, sometimes the best thing to do is just cover a ton of water. And I mean fishing everywhere. Backs of creeks, the main lake of a lake, cover a lot of water. Keep that trolling motor on high, and you're gonna run into bass here and there, and sometimes you're gonna catch good ones. Today is all about the buzzbait. The buzzbait is probably my favorite lure to use during the fall. And the best thing about it is it will work at the start of fall, and when it will literally work all the way until the water gets into the 40s. Now, just because you can catch bass on a buzzbait throughout that entire season doesn't always mean you fish it the exact same. The biggest thing that I've seen with the buzzbait really comes down to the speed at which you reel it in. Some days it seems like the bass really like a high speed buzzbait. I mean, really cranking that thing in. A lot of times this is what I'm gonna do at the start of fall. When that water starts dipping down into the low 70s and into the 60s, sometimes I'm using a lot of speed to try to trigger fish to come up there and bite that bait. And that's whether I'm fishing for largemouth, smallmouth, or even spotted bass. They will all hit a buzzbait during the fall. Now, as I get later into the fall, as that water starts to get into the upper 50s and even into the upper 40s, you can actually catch fish on buzzbait when that water temp is 49 degrees, 48 degrees. It might be best to fish in the afternoon, but the bass will hit it in that cold of water. Now, like we talked about with speed, you want to start slowing that buzzbait down as that water starts to get colder. And sometimes if I'm fishing it in really, really cold water, low 50s, high 40s, I'm literally just going to be creeping that bait across the top of the water, fishing it as slow as I can while keeping that bait up on top. And you would be surprised at the fish that you get to come up and hit that bait in cold water. Now, one of the reasons that I just love a buzzbait so much is it simply catches some of the biggest bass that live in your lake, your pond, your river, your reservoir, whatever it may be. It will catch some of the biggest bass during this time of year, during the fall. You know, when it comes to fishing a buzzbait, a lot of people think you just basically cast that bait out and just reel it in at a steady pace. That's really not the way you want to work a buzzbait, okay? You will catch fish doing that from time to time. There's no doubt about it. But if you want to get a few extra bites on your buzzbait, there's 2 things that I really like to do with it. And one of them is I'm gonna add just a little twitch while I'm reeling it. So as I'm reeling that bait in, I just like to speed up my reel handle just like that. I just go bam, just a little bit. And that basically just kind of spits a little extra water on the surface. And I have seen it be the difference between getting bites before and not, when you simply just speed my reel up, spit some water out, and then just keep on going. Now, the other thing that you want to do with a buzzbait is hit it up against pieces of cover. A buzzbait is an extremely weedless bait. It will come through logs, it will come through grass, it will come through just about anything. So don't be afraid if you see a laydown or you see some standing timber or a dock pole, whatever it may be, hit this bait up against that cover. That little twitch, that little hit can sometimes, again, trigger a bass to hit it. Sometimes fish don't know if they want to eat that bait. So adding that little twitch, hitting it up against some cover can really help you to cause some reaction strikes and catch more fish on the buzzbait. Oh my gosh. That's exactly what I'm just talking about. Oh my God. Golly, dude. I twitched that buzzbait and he crushed it, man. He got it too. Oh my gosh. That's got to be about a 4-pounder. Look at that thing. That's exactly what I just talked about. Bringing that bait down this know-nothing bank, and all of a sudden I just twitch it just barely with the rod handle, and that fish unloaded on that thing. I'm gonna let him go. Now, something that you should know about fishing in the fall in general, whether you're fishing a buzzbait or another lure, is that the bass can be extremely spread out during the fall. And what I mean by that is you might catch a bass in 40 foot of water out on some rock pile, and you might catch a bass in 4 inches of water in the back of a creek. There's a tremendous amount of bait fish during this time of the year. You know, you had the young of the year shad that have spawned, and they're everywhere. There's literally bait fish everywhere. So when you have fish that are really spread out, the biggest thing that you can do to catch fish is not get too honed in on a certain area or a certain type of rock or a certain type of bank or whatever it may be. The best thing you can do is simply just cover water and fish what looks good. When I'm fishing a buzzbait in the fall, my objective is really to keep my trolling motor on high and just cover the bank. Now you might catch a fish on a stump on a point here. You might catch fish on a channel swing over here. You might catch fish in the back of a creek. So even when I catch fish, I'm gonna slow down for probably 10 minutes, cover that area, see if there's any other fish close by, but then I'm just gonna continue to keep that trolling motor on high and cover water. The person who covers the most water in the fall time with a buzzbait can typically be the one that's gonna catch the most fish and catch the best quality. You know, as far as the actual buzzbait goes, there's a lot of good buzzbaits out there on the market, but there's only a few great buzzbaits in my opinion. And this right here is actually one of my favorite buzzbaits that I've actually ever owned. It's one that's kind of come about in the last couple of years, and this is the Megabass Jamaica BOA buzzbait. It literally says incredible buzzbait on the side of the package, and I'm not gonna lie, they weren't lying when they said this. This buzzbait actually casts better than most buzzbaits that I've fished. If you guys have fished buzzbaits a lot, you know, sometimes the wind kind of catches it, or sometimes you go to kind of wing a cast, and for whatever reason, it almost seems like that buzzbait kind of gets pushed to one side or another. I don't know why, but it seems like this buzzbait doesn't do that as much as other buzzbait. Now, the other thing that I absolutely love about this buzzbait is that it already out of the package has a really good squeal to it. You know, if you talk to guys who are really good at buzzbaits, you know, a lot of those Ozark anglers, a lot of those guys have fished buzzbaits a lot in the fall, and they will tell you about a good squeal on a buzzbait. Guys will take blades off and really rough up the edges of their buzzbait to get it to squeal. Now, the other thing that I really like about this buzzbait, and this is unique to this buzzbait and no other buzzbait, it has this little bead that's on the shaft of the buzzbait, and I've not seen this on really any other buzzbaits. And the thing about it is your blade actually comes by and kind of clicks on that bead while you're bringing it in, and it just causes a lot of commotion in the water, and it just has a great sound. Like, there's no other way to put it besides it has a really good sound. It has a tremendous drawing power, and as you can see from some of the video today, the fish absolutely love this thing. Now, the most impressive thing that I saw about this buzzbait was the plastic keeper. One thing that I absolutely love to do on my buzzbaits is put a horny toad on it, and this was something that I think Todd Otten started in South Carolina, and I actually tend to just leave my skirt on. You know, a lot of guys will take their skirt off and put the horny toad on. Honestly, I just leave the skirt on, and it seems to do well just like that. But one thing with adding a piece of plastic on there is, you know, sometimes you might only get 1 or 2 fish out of your buzzbait, and you got to switch out your plastic, which is honestly just really annoying. Now, one thing that you can do is put glue on your plastic keeper, and that's going to help prevent that bait, that soft plastic, from sliding down, and it's really going to help you get longevity out of your bait. I will probably end up doing that with this particular buzzbait, but when I got this bait, I've kind of noticed that it has a unique plastic keeper on it, and so I just kind of want to see how well it works. So I threaded it on without glue, and guys, I caught like 7, 8, 9 fish on this bait. It's still up there nice and straight on the hook. It's honestly probably the best plastic keeper that I have seen. Now, when it comes to the rod, reel, line, and everything that I like to throw a buzzbait on, I keep it pretty simple. I'm a braided line guy now. I used to fish it on fluorocarbon a lot, and you can fish a buzzbait on fluorocarbon because it's not like you're working the bait, you're keeping that bait moving it on top of the surface. But I did switch over to the braid for the pure fact that there's 0 stretch. And when you make some really long casts with a buzzbait, having that 0 stretch really helps you to just hook up better with fish. So I usually use braid. Usually a 40-pound braided line is what I like. This is a 7-foot 2-inch Akuma Psycha stick rod. It's a medium heavy power rod. It's labeled as a fast action rod, but it has a little bit more of a moderate bend, bending a little bit more down the blank. This is honestly my favorite rod that I own, period. I use this thing for buzz baits. I use this thing for spinner baits. I could use it for a jackhammer. I could use it for a jig, soft plastics. This is one of my favorite rods ever. The reel is really important when you're doing this technique, and that's an 8:1 gear ratio reel. And I know that that sounds extremely fast, and it is, but like I said, the key to this technique in the fall is to cover a lot of water. You wanna be able to cover a lot of water. So if you're moving at a fast pace, you need to have a reel that's at a fast pace to be able to kind of catch up with your line better. So I use an 8:1 gear ratio. I do think a buzzbait is probably one of the best baits to use in the fall, but if you guys wanna know other baits that you can use in the fall, I actually made a video right here that kind of goes through all the lures that I really like to use in the fall, so click on it to watch that. If you enjoyed this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.